Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Zach from OnCashflow.com, and today in this video I want to teach you everything that you need to know about the FIRE movement and if you should join. So, what is the FIRE movement? You might have heard about FIRE, financial independence, retire early, but what exactly is it and why is it a movement? Well, FIRE is a shift in your mind of how you think about life and how you think about money. It really is a lifestyle that puts more emphasis on time, freedom of time, than it does on money. So although money is talked about a lot within FIRE, the goal of people in the FIRE movement is not to accumulate money. It's to use money as a tool in order to free up their time. See, what the people in FIRE have come to realize is that time is really precious. You can't buy time for the most part. You can't really buy time. You only have a limited amount of time. It's one of the only things in life that is for certain, that you only have a certain amount of time. And so gaining control over that time is something really important to someone that has the FIRE mindset. But how do you develop this mindset, and what do you need to do? What do you need to do in order to join the FIRE movement? Well, really all you have to do is just change the way you think about money. Money is not as important as what most people in society have deemed it to be. But it is a tool that we can use. It's a tool that we can use to unlock what truly is important, and that is our time and complete control over it. Well, control over it as much as pretty much humanly possible. So we know that time is more important than money. Now, how do we gain control over that time? And how do we use money as a tool in order to do that? The goal in FIRE is to accumulate just enough. Just enough in order to free your time. Not really much less, not really much more. If you haven't accumulated enough, then you're not financially independent. And therefore, you can't really have complete control over your time forever. You can, however, have control over your time probably for a long period of time, just depending. So how do you get just enough? You need to find how much income, or how much spending rather, brings you to almost the top of the happiness curve. So while money doesn't provide us directly with happiness, we do have to use it in our society, and we can derive some happiness from it. But surprisingly, unbeknown to most people that you might meet, you don't actually need all that much money. You don't actually need to spend all that much money in order to achieve a pretty high amount of happiness. Now, you might have heard on the news or in fancy journals that the happiest people are high income earners of $80,000 a year or more, and then it peaks on after that. But us in the FIRE community, us in the FIRE movement, we say no to that. We say you don't actually need that much money. In fact, you might only need to spend half of that, perhaps even less. So what you need to realize is that there's a diminishing curve that happens with how you spend. So it kind of goes up pretty far at first, but then it tapers off, and it's not exactly flat maybe per se, but it's a small incline. So the first amount of income you have is going to be just to cover your basics of your life. Once you have the very basics, food, water, shelter, clothing, once you have that, that's already a very significant part of happiness. Having the basic necessities, you should be pretty happy compared to someone who doesn't have that at all. Now, with that comes a little bit of entertainment. So maybe a little bit of entertainment, but entertainment doesn't have to be expensive. If you really stop and think about what times in your life were you the happiest, what moments do you actually remember? Usually it doesn't involve buying things. Usually it doesn't involve spending money. If you ask most people, it's going to be time they spent with their family or their loved ones, or maybe doing a hobby that they really love, or maybe even working in a passionate job. All of those answers are right. But usually what they don't involve is they don't involve a lot of money. The amount that the curve diminishes is going to vary from person to person, but on average, it doesn't take very much for you to almost maximize your happiness. But how do you get down to such a low level of spending and still be happy? Well, it first starts with optimizing the big three expenses. All of us have these big three expenses in our lives. And usually it's probably taking up to 70% of all of our spending. So if we can optimize these big three expenses, then we have a lot more room to play with that other 30%. Or perhaps we can increase that 30%. Either way, if we get the big three under control, we can optimize smaller things later. And the big three expenses are housing, transportation, and food. Usually in that order. So housing is usually the most expensive thing in our budgets, followed by transportation. And yes, it is a lot more expensive than just the gas in your car. And then after that, our food. And none of those have to be that large. There are ways that you can optimize your lifestyle. And just by starting with those first three, you've already covered 70% of your spending. That other 30% for the most part doesn't have to move just yet. Optimizing your life does have a lot to do with reducing your spending, but it could also mean just increasing your income. It could also mean investing your money more smartly, or any combination of those. So if the FIRE movement sounds right for you, I hope you'll do a lot more research. I hope you'll watch a lot more videos on it. I hope you'll do a lot more reading. And I have a pretty good article for you to read. It's about the FIRE movement, of what we covered in this video. Except for in that article, I talk about a lot more details. I give you a lot more information about the FIRE movement and what it's about. I'm going to give you a nice little quiz at the end. You can ask yourself these 3 questions and see if financial independence and retiring early might be right for you. So go ahead and check out that article in the link in the description below. I think it'll really help you out. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and have a great day.